Get busy living or get busy dying. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 31 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about political correctness. And this week, I wanted to go see Jojo Rabbit, and I did not get to go see it. And I will tell you why. Because for its opening weekend, it was released in only 5 theaters, and because I do not live in New York, and I do not live in Los Angeles, I did not have the pleasure of going to see Jojo Rabbit over the weekend, and I'm very upset about it because I'm super looking forward to this movie. I love Taika Waititi's work. This movie looks to be absolutely bonkers and crazy, and everyone who has seen it just says how good it is. I cannot wait to go see Jojo Rabbit, and that's what I wanted to talk about this week, but I didn't realize that it was having such a limited release for its opening weekend. And so I had planned out that this week was going to be my review for Jojo Rabbit. That obviously is not the case, so I had to pull another topic from what I was going to talk about a little down the road and move it up in my schedule. So today I am talking about best musical scores. Now, just to reiterate for anyone who doesn't know the difference between a score and a soundtrack, now a soundtrack is something like in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's just like actual songs that are used as music. A score is something that is composed by a composer. It generally doesn't have lyrics. It's just background music that's used to either make the audience feel something in that particular scene, or it's meant to make people feel things throughout the movie, right? So that's the difference between a score and a soundtrack. So I'm talking about my favorite scores. As usual, I made a top 5 list. I also have 3 honorable mentions that I will talk about briefly before I get into my main 5. I did look it up, and it looks like that it's safe for me to play some of the music clips because I'm talking about them in a review analytical type sense. If I were using them as like my opening theme music or things like that, it would be a problem. But the purposes that I'm using them for today count under fair use, so that's wonderful. And they'll just be short little clips anyway, so I don't think it'll cause too much of a problem. If it is, it's something that I'll deal with. But anyway, why don't I go ahead and get started? I'll talk about my honorable mentions first. And the first one is Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, Pirates of the Caribbean was composed by Hans Zimmer, I do believe. For my honorable mentions, I didn't look up the composers. So if that's wrong, I don't think it's wrong though. I'm pretty sure it's Hans Zimmer. And it's just such a catchy tune. Like, if I mention Pirates of the Caribbean to you, you think of probably 2 things. You think of Jack Sparrow and you think of that music. Where it's like dun 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 dun. And I feel this movie really captures that spirit of adventure. And like these Pirates of the Caribbean movies, they are adventure movies. And it has that swashbuckling adventure, swinging from ropes, sailing the high seas kind of feel to it. I think it's a very strong score. The movies themselves, I don't think are amazing other than the first movie. So I'm just going to say the score from Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl is the best one because it's from the best movie. And I've only seen movies number 4 and 5. I've only seen them once each, and that was plenty. If they make another movie, which I think they are, I definitely am not going to go see it in theaters. I think I'm going to wait until it ends up on Disney+, and then I will watch it there. The next one in my honorable mentions is from the movie Gravity. Now, Gravity is a movie that takes place in space, and this movie really uses sound very well. I do believe it won the Academy Awards for visual effects, but also for sound design and sound editing and sound mixing, because the way it uses sound when you're in space versus when you're in the spaceship and all of that, it's just very expertly done. And the music really gives you that feeling of urgency. If you haven't seen Gravity, basically the story is anything that can go wrong while you're in space goes wrong in this movie, and Sandra Bullock is just trying to survive and make her way back to Earth as like everything is exploding around her, and it's absolutely crazy. It's because of movies like this that my wife is scared of space. We watched this movie once when it first came out. She doesn't want to watch it ever again. Any kind of space disaster movie is not for her. She's not about that. If there's ever like space travel, like down the road within our lifetimes, and we can go to the moon if we want, I don't think she's ever getting on that ship because that is just too much. It's crazy. And I think the music really has a lot to thank for that. So thanks a lot to the composer of Gravity's music. The last one here for my honorable mentions is by John Williams, and my list has surprisingly not as much John Williams as one would think for someone who is as big a fan of him as I am. I do believe he is the greatest film composer of all time, but that doesn't mean that other composers can't do works that are just as good and that I enjoy a little bit better. I do think he's the best, 100%. He has won 5 Academy Awards in his time and something like 60 nominations. Like, the guy is brilliant when it comes to music. They just released that new trailer for Star Wars Episode 9, and the music in that trailer is phenomenal. And I loved that music. It was wonderful. But the last one of my honorable mentions actually isn't Star Wars, it is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is another one of those adventure movies that the music just fits so well, and it's so memorable and iconic at this point that I can't not talk about the score for Indiana Jones. The music goes along with the hat and the whip it's just as important as everything else. If you were to make another Indiana Jones movie and did not include that music, I don't think it would even be an Indiana Jones movie. It doesn't fit. It needs to have that music in order to have that feel and to really emphasize the tone of what's going on in the movie. And John Williams is an absolute genius when it comes to having his music match the characters and match the setting and match the tone. He's unmatched. He is so good at it. Absolutely brilliant. And I love him for it. That's going to be it for my honorable mentions. I will move into my top 5. As usual, I go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I save the best for last because why wouldn't I do that? That's just how things work. So here we go, number 5, and that's going to be from The Hateful Eight. And The Hateful Eight was composed by Ennio Morricone. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's Italian. He is very famous for his works in Western movies, like those old Sergio Leone films where it's like wah, 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 wah. That music there, that's by him, but he did The Hateful Eight. Now, he actually came out of retirement in order to work with Quentin Tarantino in making this film, and I really, really like The Hateful Eight. Some people aren't as cool with it, but I like a good murder mystery, and I really like the music, and I like the setting, and I love the cinematography of The Hateful Eight. I think it's just a beautiful looking film. I think the performances are all on point, and I think the music is stunning. It has this chill mystery to it. Like, it's a very, like, it makes you feel cold and it makes you feel suspicious. And those are like the two main things you need in this movie because it takes place during a blizzard and it's a murder mystery. So it does everything that it needs to do. And Ennio Morricone actually won the Academy Award for this score. He was up against John Williams for The Force Awakens. And it was a really tight race because both composers came out of retirement in order to do their respective films. And I am really happy that it went to Ennio Morricone because I don't think he's done anything else. He went back into retirement after The Hateful Eight, and John Williams has continued working on the Star Wars films. So maybe for The Rise of Skywalker, he'll have another chance for an Academy Award for Star Wars. But I'm glad that The Hateful Eight won. And his acceptance speech at the Oscars that year is actually one of my favorite acceptance speeches that I've ever heard. He's just so grateful. He's a humble man. He doesn't speak English, so there was a translator there for him, speaking on his behalf as he spoke in Italian, and then it was translated. And he just had nothing but nice things to say, especially towards John Williams, who, like, they have kind of grown in their careers over the same amount of time. Like, they're both elderly men. I don't know how old each of them are, but the music from The Hateful Eight is really strong. I listen to it in the car when I'm driving around. It's here, just listen to it. Excellent, excellent music. But I will now move on to number 4, and for me, that's going to be the Grand Budapest Hotel. Now, this one is nominated by Alexander Desplat. Desplat? I don't know if he's French or not. I don't. Though, like the way Alexander is spelled makes me think that he's French, so I don't know if I need to pronounce the T or not at the end of his name. Desplat? I don't know. So, if anyone knows how to correctly pronounce his name, maybe let me know so I don't make a fool of myself here. But this music for the Grand Budapest Hotel, it's so charming. It's just really, really charming. I don't know if did I mention it already? He also won the Academy Award for this score. He won something like 2 or 3 years in a row at one point. Like he's very good. He's excellent. I don't think he works a lot though. I think he's very picky about his works. I could be completely wrong. I did not do enough research. Now I'm feeling like I'm completely unprepared. But this music fits the quirkiness and the tone of this movie. If you don't know what the Grand Budapest Hotel is, it is a story within a story within a story of sorts. And it's about this hotel concierge and his protege and kind of like the misadventures that they go on. And it's directed by Wes Anderson. And Wes Anderson has such a distinct, unique style that you need something out of the music that is just as unique and distinctive. And I think that this music, this score, is absolutely perfect. It matches excellently. And let's just listen to it for a little bit. Listening to the music, I can imagine like the little models and the people walking around and Jeff Goldblum's character. It's really excellent music. I love it. This whole movie is like shades of pink and purple and white and gray, and he just picks a color palette and sticks with it. And there's reds in there too. And oh my goodness, Wes Anderson is such a unique filmmaker that he is one of the very few that I can sit down and watch one of his movies and not know that it's him, but figure it out just because his style is so unique that no one can replicate it, but you can instantly notice it once you see it. So Wes Anderson teamed up with Alexander here to do this music for the Grand Budapest Hotel, and it really, really worked. I like it a lot. If you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and check it out. If you haven't seen any of these movies, as always, I'm always recommending movies to people. Just check out all of these movies that I'm seeing today. The Grand Budapest Hotel does have a little bit of content that's for more mature audiences, so just beware of that. But it's still an excellent film. It was nominated for Best Picture. I think it won 3 or 4 Academy Awards, which is not bad considering most movies win 0. So, Grand Budapest Hotel, composed by Alexander Desplat. I don't know how to say it, and I'm sorry. I'll move on to number 3, and if you thought I could go a full episode without talking about animation, you were wrong. Number 3 is the score from a movie called Inside Out, and that is composed by Michael Giacchino, who is probably my second favorite composer other than John Williams. Anytime Michael Giacchino does a movie, I just love the music. The only exception was for Rogue One. I wasn't as on board with that score as his other films, but I think that's just because he was on such a tight time frame and he was under a lot of pressure from the studio to hurry up and get a score out. So I think he did it in something stupid like 3 weeks, which is not enough time in my estimation. I think the music is still good, but I don't think it's up to his standard just because he was not given enough time to create a more powerful and resonating score. And also Rogue One went through a whole lot of production issues and like stuff between the director and Kathleen Kennedy and all this different stuff. So it really, like, it wasn't just Michael Giacchino's fault that this music isn't as strong. The whole production, the movie itself could have been so much better, even though I really like it. But I'm talking about Inside Out. What's going on here? Inside Out. I recently rewatched this movie with my younger sister who lives with us here, and this music has such simplicity to it that it's beautiful. Like it's just a few little notes that he uses in different ways, and it just warms your heart, and it's all about that emotion, right? And Inside Out is a movie that's specifically about emotion. All of the other scores that I have here pretty much won Academy Awards for the movie that I'm talking about. This is not the case. Michael Giacchino did win the Academy Award for his score for Up, but I actually like the one from Inside Out more. So I'm talking about that one. Let's just listen to it. It's just so simple and so beautiful, and it just resonates. But even when he does something that is a little bit faster, it still works. And even though he's using like the same template and just kind of like speeding up and slowing down, adding some extra instruments here and there, it just works and it fits. Now he has like some other tunes and stuff that he uses, like Sadness has her own theme and Anger has a little bit of stuff. There's some stuff where you're in the real world or when you're inside Riley's head that it sounds a little bit different. But for the most part, it's just these simple notes. And so that's why Inside Out is my third favorite score of all time. Of all time. Why don't I talk about number two? Number two is a big one. Number one and number two are both big ones. But number two, it didn't even win just one Academy Award. It won two, and that's The Lord of the Rings. So The Lord of the Rings is composed by Howard Shore, and he won the Academy Award for The Fellowship of the Ring, as well as for The Return of the King. Don't know what happened with The Two Towers, but that music is also great. And this music is just epic. It has this scale to it. And because Lord of the Rings is a movie that has a grander scale than anything I've ever seen in a movie before, it works. And it fits. It has this timelessness to it. There's something just about the Lord of the Rings in general that feels completely timeless. And I think the music has a lot to do with it. And like they're not messing around when it comes to the Lord of the Rings. But at the same time, they're not doing anything like fancy or special. Like you're not seeing a lot of really unique, interesting, dynamic camera shots. They're using basic camera setups throughout the whole movie, and you're also using basic music, but they're doing it all so well that it's not a movie that is clearly of its time. It's a movie that is just it's perfect. And I don't know if I can describe it any other way. And especially when it comes to the music, like just listen to how epic and grand this sounds. But it's not even just the epic grandness of it, it's that different parts of the world of Middle Earth will have different sounds to it, like the music from Hobbiton. And then you have your individual like scores and themes for each character and for each story arc, and it's so layered and dynamic but still consistent throughout the film that it's not something that takes you out of it ever. It just it just immerses you even more in the story, in the world, and you're just completely in. Whatever, like you're watching hobbits with pointy ears being carried around by orcs, you're in. Like you're just there. And I think that Howard Shore and his score for The Lord of the Rings is really a huge part of why that movie works so well. I only have one more left to talk about, and then I'm going to wrap things up. And it's another John Williams movie. I've only talked about him one other time. In my honorable mentions, I mentioned Indiana Jones, and here he comes in again at number 1. This is my favorite score for a movie of all time, whether it's my favorite of John Williams or just my favorite in general. I absolutely love it. Like, I haven't heard a score for a movie that is this beautiful, and I danced to this music at my wedding with my wife because it's such beautiful music, and that's going to be from Jurassic Park. Now, John Williams did not win one of his 5 Academy Awards for this movie, and that's fine, I guess, but I wish that it would have. Just listen to how beautiful this music is. Listening to that music just makes me think of dinosaurs, and it makes me think of, like, this movie. It's not just about dinosaurs killing people. That's what Jurassic World is about. That's not what Jurassic Park is about. Jurassic Park is so layered and deep, and it's a lot more profound than just this action movie of people getting eaten. There's depth to the characters, and they're like, the best scenes of the movie are people sitting in a room and talking, because the idea of cloning and creating life, and like, where do you draw the line, and like, who's to play God, things like that, all of these themes come up in Jurassic Park. I absolutely love the book, I love the movie, and I love this music. Now, you have like the simple, like, beautiful music, or you have like the grand arching theme of Welcome to Jurassic Park. Now, both of these themes, once again, like all the other movies, they are very similar, but just like slight changes and like changes to the tempo and things like that. I'm not an expert at music. I just know what sounds good and what doesn't. I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to make music. All I can do is listen to it and talk about it. I can't get as deep into it as maybe other people could, but and that's fine. But for me, this music just takes the cake for when it comes to something that fits the tone, fits the setting, is memorable. It ticks all of those boxes and then some. There's just something about this music that I find extremely beautiful. And that sounds like something that I've said before early in the podcast. I don't want to sound like someone who's always just repeating themselves, but that's just what it is. I love it. Jurassic Park is my favorite. It's always going to be my favorite, I think. A score is really, really going to have to be something else in order for it to knock Jurassic Park out of the top spot for me. And who knows, that might happen down the road, but it's been 26 years since Jurassic Park came out, and as far as I can tell, nothing has come along yet to top that music for me. So those are my top 5 best musical scores. I'll run them through you again. The Hateful Eight, composed by Ennio Morricone. The Grand Budapest Hotel, composed by Alexandre Desplat. Inside Out, composed by Michael Giacchino. The Lord of the Rings, composed by Howard Shore. And Jurassic Park, composed by John Williams. I would love to know what your favorite musical score is. Please let me know. You can find me on social media, on Twitter at PottleNathan, and on Instagram at Pottle Productions. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.